RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Monday, October 21st. We'll be taking a look-see, back-see, the review of the Week 7 NFL slate on DraftKings. So hit that thumbs up button on your way in the door. Give me those thummy thumbs. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to always know when we go live. Remember, later tonight, we got a pre-lock show for, we got two Monday Night Football games this week. So they'll be going over all the showdown content, the two-game slate type of stuff later tonight. So hit that notification bell. You'll always know when we go live. And you know what we do on Mondays? It's Mondays with McCool. It's James McCool, the co-author, with me on the theory of daily fantasy sports. If you want to learn about all the things about game theory in DFS, 15 hours of audio. It's a DFS masterclass you can find at theoryofdfs.com. James, one thing that we don't cover in the theory of DFS is that the late set games you go into, and then it just for most people, for many people, based on ownership, you thought your lineups were good after 1 p.m. Eastern, and you're like, oh, well, all I got left are these three guys in the late games. You lost, right? I mean, just basically, like, well, I mean, I got Njoku early. I got Hubbard, and I got Jaden Daniels. I got Jordan Whittington and Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, how do I lose? Well, you lose when everything goes haywire. In the late set, but I did cash in my cash games on both barely on DraftKings. I just got over the line on DraftKings. FanDuel was FanDuel. I had a Whittington 0, and I still cashed quintuple ups. On DraftKings, I didn't take a single 0, and I just got over the line. No, I took a Juju 0. No, I'm sorry, I took a Juju 0 in cash. James, how was your Sunday?
I got wiped. Here's the thing. I got wiped, but I will say that building for this slate was maybe the most fun that I have had building this entire year. And that just goes to show that we're really just in this for the friends that we made along the way. No, negative 100% ROI sucks. It was a really wild week, right, to say the least. It's funny that you're talking about late swap, going into those late games. I had a sub that was winning 20K, and he was just like, oh, well, should I swap off of this onto more ownership? And it's like, yeah, absolutely, you should do that, because he had like some low-owned pieces in the late games, and he was like literally in first. And then we convinced him to swap onto Juju and Whittington. Who did he have there previously? I mean, it's like two 4K wide receivers are weird to just have. What did he originally have? It was on FanDuel. The pricing was different.
Oh, okay. FanDuel's a little bit different.
Yeah. So and he did have like it was kind of some weird stuff, because to be in first after the first games, you had to kind of have some weird stuff. So his lineups were a little bit weird going into the late games, and he had just enough salary to swap to Juju and Whittington. It was just like, oh yeah, that's an easy swap. You can just block everyone behind you. And then he lost. Obviously, he didn't hold.
Strategically, it does make sense.
Yeah,
but I thought this slate, I thought heuristically was you. I'm not saying that you did well, but I think if you're a heuristic, non-projection based player, I think GPPs were, I don't want to call it straightforward, but so let's talk about it. Okay, we show results DB up here. Obviously, this is a free tool here at RotoGrinders. So you go to rotogrinders.com/resultsdb. You can get look at all the contests we have from DraftKings: the Millie, the big Millie, the small Millie, the double ups, the mini max, the whatever, the single entry contest stuff. You can go in there and you can look at everyone's lineups, everyone's exposures. You can compare team stacks, game stacks, duplicates, whatever you want on here. So that's absolutely free. Though I'd love for you to sign up for combo premium package here at RotoGrinders with NBA starting this week. We got like all these sports are going on at the same time. But some people maybe don't want the commitment for, you know, the everything, and, you know, everything we could possibly offer, lineup HQ, everything. We have a combo light package now, which, you know, especially with Sims, everyone's running the Sims, right? But it's very expensive to run the Sims. But here, RotoGrinders, it isn't. So you get Sim Labs plus a whole bunch of our premium content, including our research tools like Court IQ. NBA's coming up soon. You're going to need to know those on-off statistics. If this guy's in, if this guy's out, stuff like that. You get all of that for the 4 major sports: MLB, which is almost done, NFL, NBA, PGA. You get it here for one low cost of $39.99 a month. I think you even get like $10 off your first month if you click on the link in the description. So go do that now. Okay, when I say heuristics, James, heuristics meaning that, you know, maybe you're not going through any type of scientific process of projecting, but just there are certain like catch-alls of, well, when these variables exist, it's more likely this and less likely that, right? I mean, we talked about the past couple of weeks about tight ends. It's like, heuristically, if you pay down a tight end, it's the opportunity cost of the position is low, so you're probably not giving up much. So that would be considered a heuristic. And one of the heuristics in probably all sports, right, to some extent, is the implied team total of a team, right? So like in NBA, if there's a game with a 248-point total and one team has a 124 point, like, there's going to be a bunch of points scored in that game probably by that team. Right. So you probably want to play players from that team, price considered, obviously. Baseball, right? Oh, this team has a 6.2 implied run total versus a team that has a 3.6 implied run total. It's like, well, which team should I stack? It's like, if you're not considering ownership, stack the team that's probably going to score a bunch of runs. I mean, that type of stuff. I thought that the running back position was especially true. If I go by filter by running back position, here in the Millie, Tony Pollard was the most owned running back, 27%. Chuba Hubbard, 26%. The reason why they're owned, they project well from a median standpoint. Key point, median standpoint, because Pollard had like no one behind him. He was like basically that chestnut guy, wasn't going to play that much. Chuba Hubbard has a very similar role where even if they're behind, he's going to catch balls out of the backfield. So like they get a ton of the work in their own backfields, and they're only in the 6K range. So from a median standpoint, they look good. The problem is that the Titans had the lowest implied team total on the entire slate, and the Chuba Hubbard's on the Panthers, and they were an 8-point road dog to the Commanders. And you know where ceiling comes from? It comes from scoring touchdowns, right? So my first consideration, like, yeah, did I play Pollard and Chuba Hubbard in cash games on DraftKings? Yes, I did. And I cashed because in double ups, all I care about is the median. But in GPP, I was playing other people. I mean, like, I thought like Kenneth Walker. What happened there? Like Kenneth Walker ended up at 7% owned at 7,300. He was in my cash lineup also. Two guys like this, Kenneth Walker and Aaron Jones. Like just. The Q tag, just people just said, no, I don't want to play guys that are playing for teams that have 25+ point team totals that also catch balls out of the backfield, that also are the goal line back. Because I don't know. I thought Aaron Jones, James, was more risky than Kenneth Walker because he just popped up with just illness, which could mean anything. Aaron Jones, at least, you know, always gets hurt. At the running back position, were you? I just thought it was so much easier to find ways where Pollard and Hubbard just didn't kill you. Like if they scored 15 points, we talked about this running back scoring being flat. As long as you get like 20 points out of each of your running back spots, you're probably in good shape. I just don't. Is Pollard or Hubbard going to score more than 20 points in these situations where their teams are on the road and awful? Like, I just played other people.
Yeah. So I did end up playing some Pollard. I played I played Pollard and I played Hubbard, but I had a lot of the same reasoning as you did behind why I didn't necessarily love them as plays. I talked about it on the Slate talk that I do over at Paydirt, and I kind of laid out the same things that you just did, where it's like, okay, so Hubbard has a really good role, but they're 9-point underdogs on the road and might not score more than 13 real life points. Like they might score one touchdown. Lo and behold, they scored one touchdown, and it was Chuba Hubbard. To be fair, but that's well within the range of outcomes. They just get blown out of the water, and the offense that is really good just dominates the game. I was higher on Pollard because I don't necessarily. I mean, the spread was a little bit less, and Buffalo's a little bit worse of an offense than Washington, which is funny to say. And Pollard, again, he didn't have anybody behind him. So I thought that role was more secure. I thought the receiving floor was a little bit better. But again, speaking to your point, the medians were good. The ceilings were generally low. So I didn't necessarily love either one of them. But what I ended up doing, because I thought the roles were fine, I ended up playing them and forcing them with their defenses. So that if they were to do well, then it was based on their teams either having a lead or being in close games. So for the most part, I agree with you that the heuristic part of this was really easy to follow. And I even said on the Slate Talk, like there are running backs that are home favorites on big favorites that we should probably just be playing, like Kenneth Walker. And that, like, I liked both the running backs in Detroit. I wrote up Jahmyr Gibbs as a pivot. He did great. Like, Aaron Jones was in a good spot. Kyron Williams, like all these
obviously.
guys.
I mean, Kyron Williams was 8,100. So I mean, there's the price, like Saquon Barkley's there at 8,200. I mean, it's the price considered. To me, heuristically, the best play in a vacuum. Obviously, line of construction matters. Where I mean, you can play anyone in any lineup depending on how you build it. I thought I played the running back I played the most of was Bijan Robinson at 7,100, because it seemed like everyone wanted to play Drake London. Like the old school heuristic. Like if you listen to some of my older shows, is okay, where is everyone going, and how could that result still happen? Like the team scores a bunch of points, but it goes to someone else, right? So like everyone's playing. Imagine everyone playing Pollard and you played DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not saying you didn't necessarily did it for a 16-point Titans team, but that's the type of thing. If you played Deontay Johnson instead of Chuba Hubbard, that's that heuristic. I thought Bijan Robinson, more people went on board with the Brian Robinson train. They go, well, Jay Daniels is popular, so I'm going to take Brian Robinson. And I mean, to be fair, that game got completely out of hand, and like the second half was a wash. And the other game that I liked for running backs was Josh Jacobs and Joe Mixon, because of price. That's the price heuristic of anyone that's in the $7,200 range at running back is probably playing Kenneth Walker, or they're going up to Kyron Williams, and then Josh Jacobs is at 6,400, and that's Chuba Hubbard and Tony Pollard right there. And the Packers these teams had higher total. I mean, just simply put, it's just like, what teams do I think are going to score touchdowns this week? And who is the goal line back? And who could see 20 plus touches? Mixon definitely. Jacobs obviously has Wilson behind him a little bit. So, like, I nailed the running backs, other than, I mean, I didn't play Gibbs, and I didn't play Barkley. Everything else kind of just went wrong. As far as wrong from a ownership perspective. Like, to be fair, wrong from an ownership perspective, because we go to wide receiver, and if you listen to the Gilcast, okay, Nate and Davis were on. Sammy was off this week. It's on the RotoGrinders fantasy football feed, and of course, that's more of an entertainment show. They laugh at each other. They yell at each other over their cash game lineups, why one guy was stupid, he didn't cash, and blah, blah, blah. But they go through it. They go through a nice discussion. They also talk about some tournament teams. And we see it's been very clear this season at least, that either people are using heuristics a little bit more, or they're reliant way too much on median projections, and then like, well, if I drop down 5 points, what's that lineup? And whatever that lineup is gets way too chalky. So for instance, in our projections here at RotoGrinders, we had Drake London for more points than Malik Neighbors. And from an aggregate, it was close. But Drake London was 600 cheaper and had a slightly higher median projection. Yet in the Millie, Neighbors comes in slightly higher owned than Drake London, because most probably, well, everyone's playing Drake London. So who do I play? I play Malik Neighbors, right? You take a look at everyone's playing Justin Jefferson. I'm going to play Jordan Addison at 5,600. And Addison becomes 15.8% owned. Or Jamison Williams. Oh, people are going to play Amon-Ra or something like that. Jamison Williams was 12% owned, which could surprise the hell out of me. But you see a lot of this stuff. Like Trey Tucker was more owned than Jordan Whittington. And in almost every place that I looked, Jordan Whittington projected more than Noah Brown or Trey Tucker. And some of these are swaps, obviously, because, these are late games. But you just see a lot of it. Jalen Coker, who did this? 5.8%. I mean, I know Eric Beinford was talking about him on the Sunday block. But yeah, I think that got out of playing Jalen Coker at 1% owned as the wide receiver 4 on the Panthers. Is one thing, but playing him into 6% ownership when Leggett is only 0.2% higher owned is probably not good.
That was a very funny reaction.
Right?
Who did that?
Who did that? My the wide receiver I had the most exposure to, and I mean it's not like I play a million lineups. I use my heuristic again. The Rams. 26-point implied total, whatever. Kyron Williams, people are playing. Jordan Whittington, even though he played 9 snaps, but I mean, I thought more people were playing. Colby Parkinson at tight end, probably top 2, top 3 owned tight end. So, well, Tutu Atwell sitting there at 5,000, and he obviously has a ceiling.
Right.
So I played him in like half my lineups as a one-off, because seems like a perfect one-off to me. He scored 11 points, which, hey, for the wide receiver position this week, wasn't that bad.
That's
right?
good.
We take a look at wide receiver. We rarely see this, that only 2 wide receivers even scored more than 20 points.
Yeah.
And that was Amon-Ra and Justin Jefferson in the same game. And everyone else is like, we had flat scoring for like wide receiver. It's like not many even scored more than 15 points.
Yeah.
What did you do? What were your thoughts at wide receiver? And do you agree with me that like the second best play, like the sneaky play, the fancy play, the like, oh, everyone's going to do this and I'm going to do that, like those plays? I mean, we saw the week before with Jalen Tolbert, right? Jalen Tolbert is like this week's like Jordan Addison of like, I want to play Vikings, but Jefferson is too expensive at 8,500, and most people are going to play him, so I'm going to play Jordan Addison, and then Addison becomes 5th highest owned wide receiver.
Yeah. So I'll say 2 things about it. One, I think that a lot of it is built off of increased use of contest sims. Because contest sims are doing a lot of things for people that are making their lineups better. Whereas I had Justin Jefferson project better. I had Justin
better
Jefferson
based on the key thing about contest sims, and the same applies to sim labs. It's based on projected ownership.
Well, hold on. That's not what I mean necessarily.
Okay.
It's not necessarily what I mean. It is holding their hand in terms of things like correlation upside and ownership, and like it takes ownership into account. But when I say better lineups, I in this regard, I mean better roster construction. When you just hit optimize at Lineup HQ, it gives you a jumbled parlay. When you're using the contest sims, typically you're going to see more stacks. Just because that's the way that it goes. So something like Jordan Addison getting up there, that is more of a contest sims nudge of people are playing Justin Jefferson and Sam Darnold, so push up Jordan Addison because he's in those lineups. So I think that that's one part of it on the wide receiver twos, going back to the Jalen Tolbert thing. I'll actually say three things. Two, I think that you're right that there are a lot of people that are saying, oh, well, why would we play Drake London at 29% owned when I could play Malik Neighbors, or I could play Terry McLaurin, or I could play Jameson Williams, aka basically exactly what I said in 3 different pieces of content this week, right? People are getting a better understanding of this player is under-owned versus this player is over-owned. And the third thing that I'll say is that it has completely fucked ownership projections. Like, I was so frustrated about it because there is no way to fix it.
There is a way to fix it, James.
No.
You have to think third level now. Now you have to think some.
But you can't. But you can't. Hear me out. You can't, because you and I, from a gameplay standpoint, we can think third level, right? We can do that. For me, from a modeling perspective, where I have to build ownership, there's no answer.
No.
Because good ownership leads to smart pivots. Smart pivots lead to worse ownership.
Right.
We're on.
So what you need to do, James, what you need to model is that you need to come out with projected ownership, like of what it is, and then you have to feed that ownership through a model of people looking at that ownership and going, well, if people saw this, they'd show that like this guy is more owned than blah blah blah, and then based on that, you make the ownership of over there, and then eventually 3 years from now, you'll have to do that again a third time, and Justin Jefferson comes in at 3% owned, right? Like, it's like everyone's doing that, and then coming back the other way. But the thing is that like projecting ownership is a function of, like, I take most people look at medians.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the key thing. It's like people look at medians and people look at certain types of lineups. I thought what a lot of people say on other shows, I thought 2 tight end builds were absolutely viable this week. When you had the tight ends on DraftKings were worth it enough that there's no 4K wide receiver that was worth like the $3,500 wide receiver. And also, to get back to what I originally was going to say, like Kenny Walker, for instance, I played him on FanDuel in my cash lineup.
Yeah,
because he was a better play on FanDuel than he was on DraftKings. And I played 4 or 5 GPP lineups on FanDuel. Didn't play him in a single one of them. And I'm like, I'm going to play Breece Hall. I'm going to play Josh Jacobs. Now, Josh Jacobs came in low owned.
Yeah.
But Breece Hall was more owned than Kenny Walker was like the 7th highest owned running back on the select. Brian Robinson was like more owned, and he was more expensive. And I'm like I purposely didn't play Kenny Walker because I thought he would be too chalky.
Yeah.
And it turns out that I should have just jammed him into all of my lineups. And then Chuba Hubbard comes in. I didn't play him at all. But for whatever reason, he comes in at 7,400. He comes in at like 38% owned.
Yeah.
And Pollard is not as owned on FanDuel as compared to DraftKings. And the same thing for like the Juju stuff. Juju was 6,100 on FanDuel, so that's a little less of a story, right? But it's even from site to site that, like, what's my cash lineup? And it's like, well, I can't play a 2v2 off of that. So who are the most fragile pieces here that I could replace these guys with? And I thought, okay, Breece Hall and Josh Jacobs and Bijan Robinson on FanDuel, especially at 8,200. It's like, okay, I'll switch these guys out. but I'll still play Tank Dell, who got a 0, right? A 0, right? I'll play Malik Neighbors at 8,300 on FanDuel, but not on DraftKings. So of course I have lineups that are like I have Mixon, I have Bijan, and then I have like a 0, a 3, and like a 6 at wide receiver, and then Njoku and tight end, and then like a 3-point defense. And I'm like, dude, Jaden Daniels failed. He got hurt in the first quarter, and how did I not make money today? I actually broke even in GP. I actually broke even in GPP across both sites. Thank God for the injuries, because I didn't really play much Jaden Daniels. But with let's go to the tight end thing. Did you? I mean, Njoku at 4,100. We had Parkinson at 3,800. I didn't think Njoku should be twice his own Parkinson. I thought they'd be closer in ownership. And then we have Ertz, Pitts. Obviously, you could spend up for Bowers. You could spend up for Kelsey. I don't know where he is. He's over here.
No ownership.
5% owned. There were plenty of builds that if you didn't want to play a Whittington or a Juju or a Trey Tucker, that you could have played Njoku Parkinson lineups and not spent less than 6K on a wide receiver or a running. Like you could have made those builds, and I actually thought they were. I thought they were pretty sharp. I mean, I played a Jaden Daniels lineup on DraftKings with Daniels, McLaurin, Ertz, and Njoku in the flex spot, and Ertz in the flex spot, just so I played 0 Juju in like all of my like GPP teams, and I barely played Whittington because I was playing Atwell instead, because I thought that would be leverage. I think people that go by the heuristic of like 2 tight end teams are bad. Like I don't think that heuristic. I think it all depends on the type of slate and what is available. And I didn't think Juju and Trey Tucker are like, I got to play 4K guys. They're going to put up a million type of plays. And there was really no other cheap value elsewhere. There was like I'd rather play T. Higgins in the 6K range. I'd rather like all these 6K level like wide receivers. I'd much rather have. And if that means I have to play a $3,200 Grand Calcaterra in the flex or something like that, I think that's perfectly fine, because it's not like for 3,200, if he scores a touchdown, I mean, you could still, dude. I think the if we go to the $100 milli, I think the winner won with a 0.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. So here's what I'll say. One, I think you were wrong about the Juju thing.
I was wrong about Juju. I should have played Juju in all my lineups.
Yeah. No, I mean, I legitimately think he was the best value that we've had. Granted, tore his hamstring off the bone on the first play or whatever. Did pop up. Now, I did have a little bit of pause when he came up with that hamstring thing, early in the morning. But I didn't think at 4K, I think you had to think of him as a $6,500 receiver with a $2,500 discount.
Maybe,
but I digress.
Well, hold on. No, I want to fight back on this. The prop market was low. The prop market was low on Juju. I mean, like, it's not like one of these things where it's like, oh, he's chalking DFS, and you look and his props are like 68 yards or whatever. His props were like, dude, Whittington, who didn't even play, had a higher receiving and reception prop than Juju when the market thought he was playing. I mean, like Trey Tucker had a 2-yard less projection, and Trey Tucker barely played the week before, barely got a target the week before. So, like, yeah, I'm of the opinion, even though I bet on props and I love when the market is inefficient, that the market can't be that inefficient where Juju's prop is 42.5, and it really should be 68 as you claim. So
like, let me ask you something.
Be that wrong.
Let me ask you something. If you want to reference the Jordan Whittington one, wouldn't that speak to the prop market being inefficient to the point of not understanding wide receiver roles, since he only played 9 snaps?
You kind of make a little bit of a point there. You're right. Everyone bet Whittington props. I mean, I didn't, but I'm just saying the market. It was 4.5, like 52.5 yards or whatever, and then played 9 snaps because coming off the bye or whatever, and Tyler Johnson played. Chiefs were in the same spot, and they come off the bye, and everyone's like, "Well, it's Xavier Worthy time," and maybe it wasn't. Maybe Juju was just going to play the Rashee Rice role again and can get 100 yards and 12 receptions. You didn't know. You're right. You're right. You didn't know.
Yeah, I would say that, and what I was going to say when I said I digress is mostly that I do think that there was a wide range of assumptions that you could have made about the Juju role. My assumption was that he steps in Rashee Rice's role. I thought that it made sense, and in that case, he's a $6,500 wide receiver that's $2,500 priced. To which I projected him higher in the industry. I think I had him projected at 13 fantasy points. I think most of the industry was somewhere around 11, of which, that's not a massive difference, but it is that 20 yards that you're talking about in the prop market. So I thought he was a terrific play. That being said, from a 2 tight end standpoint, I didn't think that it was that bad of an idea to go 2 tight end, specifically for David Njoku. Just because I did think that he was, we've had it 4 times now this year, I think, where we had a tight end priced in the low 4K range that should be priced in the mid 5K range. And every single time it's like, well, they should have been priced in the mid 5K range. So you get a $1,500 discount there.
Well, Jake Ferguson was one of them, and then the Cowboys shit the bed. So, I mean,
right. Well, that's where
it doesn't work out.
We've had 7 weeks, and I said 4 weeks it worked. So we got a little bit of a buffer there. But it is, what we are doing and what you and I are talking about right now, when I'm talking about Juju being $2,500 underpriced, and you're talking about David Njoku being a totally fine flex option at 4,100. What we're talking about is you should be aiming to play players that are underpriced relative to the value that they can provide. And that can be found in a very, very basic, blunt way of just saying, here's their projection divided by their salary, right? Like we've been doing that for years, but it's kind of a lost art now, I think, of finding the spots that are really undervalued per their ceiling and not just their median. I think that's where you can look at that tight end situation. That there were some people that brought up 2 tight end in the Pater Discord, and many people said, like, I'm just not going to do that, and that was because at Pater I had Juju projected as a really good value, but I didn't push back necessarily on the idea of 2 tight end because we didn't really have that much value outside of Juju. If you didn't want to use Juju in the flex, like who else are you going to play?
Jalen Coker, right?
I don't know.
Jalen Coker.
I don't know who even. If you were listening to somebody and they told you to play Jalen Coker, I think that you should stop listening to them. Eric Bynford was, but he's Galaxy Brain, Mr. Galaxy Brain. I think you should just stop listening to him. If that's what he's going to like. I think that if somebody is telling you that the wide receiver 4 for the Panthers as
to be fair, I think he was going to be the wide receiver. Technically, if Jatavian Sanders, I didn't have a problem with the tight end. He was 2,900
because he's the actual tight end for the Panthers.
Right, he's the actual. Tommy Tremble's out, and Sanders actually plays almost every snap because
you can't. I will take a stand in the dirt here, and I will say if anybody tells you to play the wide receiver 4 on a team that is implied to score like 13 real life points, you should just stop listening to them. They're not giving good advice for daily fantasy.
What's it, James? That to me, I never mind people with outlandish contrarian takes, but not at 5.8% owned. Like that to me, I'm the ownership guy, right? I care. Like you tell me you want to play some 0.4%, 0. Sean Tucker last week. Mm-hmm. If someone came on and said, you know what, Bucky Irving may not be the guy, right? They may just give it to Sean Tucker, and people looking like you play Sean Tucker at 4K, and he's going to be like not even 1% owned. He's going to be like a half of a percent owned. Mm-hmm. I'll be like, okay, you're crazy, and then you flip over the cards, and he's like, you're the only person in 200,000 entries that has him, and he scores 40 points. God bless you. That was the Millie winner last week. But if you're if you turned over Sean Tucker and he was 6% owned, now you're doing that thing where the meme where you put clown makeup on your face, like that type of thing. But it turns out to be how many either that or just how many people listen to me. Like this is
yeah. Well, that's the
why
other
aren't
thing.
they moving other markets? Why are no one should play Justin Jefferson this week?
Whoever got 6% of the field to play Jalen Coker, we need them to like really move some markets.
We need to get in touch with them. We need to flip them something.
Maybe they can help me fix ownership projections across the industry.
Right, they can make it whatever you want ownership to be, James. They can make it happen.
They can boost it by 400%.
They know exactly. You want this guy to be 18% owned? Okay, I'm going to talk about them and just enough to the point in which they get up to 18 and then stop. And then who's the next guy? Okay, here's the next guy.
That's how we do it. That's the fourth level, right? That's the next level past what we need to work on. Also, just gonna point out Sean Tucker as the RB2 with no Rachaad White. If he was 6% owned, that's too much ownership, but that's not even the same ballpark, league, or planet as Jalen Coker somehow being 6% owned on the. I can't even. People say that DFS is dead, and then Jalen Coker gets 6% ownership on this week, and you're reminded that 6% of the field is just slapping their face against the keyboard and making decisions. There was just that rake paid. Just awful stuff.
Here receivers in similar price range, similar enough, that were less owned than Jalen Coker. For $200 more, you could have gotten Elijah Moore. Like an actual wide receiver. I know
quite possibly the wide receiver one on the Browns.
Right.
With a higher team total.
Right. Let's go down. Tim Patrick, 3,500, 3.5%.
Got 4 targets last week. Quite possibly the wide receiver 3 for Detroit, who had one of the highest team totals on the slate.
Anyone else down here? Andre Yoshevich, 3,800.
Has scored 4 touchdowns this year.
Right. DJ Turner for the Raiders. That's about the same. DJ Turner at 1.6% owned. I'm like, okay, that people are playing Trey Tucker, right? Maybe it's DJ. Okay, but that's the point where you play Jalen Coker. Like that. now we're at the. Do you play DJ Turner at 1.6% or do you play Jalen Coker at 1.6%? Like now I could see Christian Wilkerson. Like if you're like now we're in the 1% range. If you want to take a shot, Alec. Oh no, he's too. Ricky Pearsall.
There you go. That's the 1% play that you make.
McCool Hart. I mean, like, dude. Zacchaeus Raymond. Cedric Tillman at 18 points. Cedric Tillman at 3K. He had 18 points and 0.7% owned.
Quite possibly the wide receiver one for like people just that this Coker thing is going to tilt me for the entire day, I think.
And by the way, it wasn't just Eric Byfor. I heard Jalen Coker's name on like 1 or 2 other shows around the industry as well.
Take a lap. Anyone who said it, take a lap.
But I think a lot of it was based on the fact that Deontay Johnson may not be healthy.
Who cares? It's wide receiver 4 for the Panthers.
But if Deontay Johnson doesn't play, all of his target share of the Panthers team that are going to get blown out by 40 points, how do you not get a share of that?
How do you not get a share of the wide receiver 4? Sorry, wide receiver 3.5 on the Panthers if Deontay Johnson has 1 hamstring. I would play Andy Dalton at wide receiver before I would play Jalen Coker.
No, you'd play Adam Thielen at wide receiver, and he's out.
I would play Adam Thielen with 1 foot. I would play Adam Thielen for sure. Also, TJ, just because Dean had a huge day and played Coker, let's come on. Dean, I love Dean. That's what TJ's saying. He said Dean had a huge day.
Dean had a huge day. Oh, when everything goes wrong and he didn't play any of the people that anyone else was playing.
Right.
His 1-1-1, his GPP lineup that has absolutely no correlation ends up winning. Right. I mean, whatever.
No correlation in Jalen Coker. That's what you needed to win this week.
Right. No,
it was I don't know if it was huge. I just remember, I know he had a pretty big day, but it was a Darnold, Jones, and Jefferson stack.
Yeah, you could have Coker. See, the thing is with Coker is that Like Juju got 0. Like people won with zeros. So like Jalen Coker's 5. Like it didn't matter. I mean, like it did. Like it was one of those slates where it didn't matter when enough people get injured and all this ownership. Pollard busts, everything goes wrong.
Right.
Like you could win with a 0.
Like,
That's
yeah,
why
man,
I said the double tight end lineups were not crazy.
I guess if literally like 60% of the field that played a lineup that actually made sense, when all of those lineups die, the 40% that suck are gonna win, right?
I do want to shout him out though, because he played Jahmyr Gibbs, Aaron Jones, Jefferson, St. Brown, and Njoku. And so
basically he stacked a game that scored a whole bunch of points. I mean, that
good for him.
We talked about heuristics in the very beginning.
I'm backing my guy.
I agree with you. I'm agreeing with you, TJ. Dean, what he did is like, I want Minnesota, Detroit, and how do I get Minnesota, Detroit into the lineup? I need 3K for Jalen Coker. Give it to me. Maybe there you go, done.
If
that's fine.
What you're telling me, what are you gonna do?
What you're telling me, TJ, is that what Dean did was he stacked the highest team total on the slate and found success. That's not because of Jalen Coker. It's because he's
I know it's not because of Jalen Coker. I was just saying, like, the rest
don't defend the Coker play. What are we
team.
doing here? What are we doing?
It's two separate conversations.
You have jet lag.
Two separate conversations.
Defense, as usual, the Rams defense, the second highest owned. I mean, you could have played other defenses or whatever like that, but I didn't let defense dictate anything this week. I mean, is there anything to say about defense? I mean, sometimes we talk about defense. Typically, we're complaining when the chalkiest defense scores the most points. Didn't really happen this week, but I don't know. I mean, the Rams defense, I didn't feel compelled to tell. I mean, I had some teams with the Bills defense at 3,500, but for the most part, I played pretty much what's up here. I played Giants, Rams, Browns, Bills, Bengals, and I did play some Dolphins. I actually played the Dolphins in my cash game on FanDuel because Anthony Richardson's awful.
Apparently. I played an Anthony Richardson lineup. It was my favorite lineup that I built this week. Do you want to hear what it is?
Did you play it with the Did you play with the Ashton Doolin with the Colts wide receiver 4 just to have a pseudo Jalen Coker lineup?
No. Okay, look, this is a masterpiece. Okay, this is Anthony Richardson.
How many points did it score? I'm going to guess it scored like 68 points or something.
66. It scored 66 points.
Okay, let's hear it.
Listen. This is a beautiful lineup. Anthony Richardson plus Josh Downs. Bring it back with Tyreek Hill. Okay, Tyreek Hill at like 1% ownership. That's gorgeous. All right, that's beautiful. Played it with Kyron Williams with a bring back of Brock Bowers, Chuba Hubbard in the Panthers defense. All right, soaking up a lot of ownership there with Noah Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. That's a sick lineup, dude.
Half those people in your lineup got a 0, I think.
I know.
If it wasn't for Kyron Williams and Brock Bowers, I mean, I don't know. You might as well have put in like injured players.
It wasn't my lowest scoring lineup. Is the funniest part. My lowest scoring lineup.
What the hell was your lowest scoring lineup?
I had a Houston Green Bay game stack.
You played Stroud, Dell. I'm assuming Stroud, Dell, and Jaden Reed.
Stroud, Dell with Diggs, Tucker Kraft, and Christian Watson, who had -4 rushing.
So who's the ones that scored points in that lineup? The defense? You had like the Bengals defense in that lineup.
I had the Titans defense in that one. They scored 0 fantasy points. The lineup scored 48 total points. It's a masterpiece. It was beautiful.
Where did the points come? You named players. I don't even know where the 48 points came from.
Okay, so Tucker Kraft scored 12.
Right.
And he was the second highest scoring player in that lineup. The highest scoring was Brian Robinson at 13. That's incredible. Incredible stuff. I had 3 zeros in that lineup. The defense, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Tank Dell. Incredible. I had a week. Like I said, I got blanked, man. But it was it was a lot of fun building lineups this week. I'll say that.
I didn't play any Stroud. I did play Dell as a one-off. And
Yeah.
I played Jacobs on the Packers, but I didn't really.
I really liked that game environment. I thought the game
I
environment
played Mixon. I liked the running backs. I didn't like the. I didn't really. I thought the stacks didn't match up properly. But hey, at their ownership, at CJ Stroud was barely played.
What?
Steph Diggs was barely played. Christian Watson. I mean, if you're playing those guys, playing guys that are like that are on the field, not waiting to come on in 7 wide receiver sets for the Panthers, like that. Okay,
that lineup that scored 48 points is infinitely better than any lineup of Jalen Coker.
It's better than Dean's line. It didn't matter. Dean stacked the Lions-Vikings game, the highest total, with Jalen Coker. Your lineup with CJ Stroud and Christian Watson and the Titans defense, infinitely better.
Infinitely. I can't even tell you the amount of Sklansky bucks that I have more than Dean does. He has real money, but I built good lineups.
Okay, James. People can find you paydirtdfs.com.
Yeah, paydirtdfs.com. Ramping up all the NBA stuff today. So NBA models will be live today. I'm gonna have a discount code that you can use over there. It's gonna be probably like paydirt NBA 24 or something. I don't know. I'll tweet it out. But you can find all that stuff. And also you can find me over on Twitter at paydirt_DFS.
Hit that like button on your way out the door. Give me those likey likes. NBA is this week. Can you? I'm perfectly fine with NBA coming up because I ain't playing it. Doesn't matter. Let you do all. Let this guy's it. It'll be last season. I thought I was going to give it a shot again. I was like, okay, I'm gonna play NBA defense. Third day, 17 injuries. People out that weren't on the. It's the third day. It's the third day. I'm done. Yeah. I'm done. So I don't even want 3 days worth of this crap. You have to deal with it. And obviously our projections team has to deal with it. And we have great projections here at RotoGrinders. And we have sim labs. So you don't even need like lineup HQ. You don't even need to build, think about correlation, leverage, and all the levers of DFS. Sim labs will do that for you with our projections, our ownership projections. So get that combo light package. Click on that link in the description and sign up for about $40 a month. It's really cheap for the 4 major sports. Pre-lock show later today for the 2 Monday night football games. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to know when we go live here on the channel. I'll see you tomorrow for some NHL stuff and NHL DFS tomorrow because I'm here for you every Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.